was a perfect person for psychological warfare. He got so deep in my head as a young kid, and that really fucks up your foundation. You know, when you're born, man, there's some sensitive years in there, man, where your brain starts to develop and it starts to give you self-esteem, courage, confidence, all those things. And my dad was stripping that away from everybody. And when you see your mom at a young kid, that shit scars you permanently. And that was hard for an 8-year-old kid, because when we moved to that small town of Brazil, Indiana, I had a learning disability. I was stuttering. I was battling so much shit that I never even told my mom about, because she was battling her own demons. So at 8 years old, I'm looking for comfort, and I'm like, hey, don't bother your mom with shit. You were not the man of the house. And I started becoming real protective of my mother at a young age. So whatever you're going through, man, you're on your fucking own. You're not gonna tell your mom shit. And she ended up finding out later through the school systems and through me failing and through me, you know, all these issues I went through. She found out a lot. But, you know, I kept as much as I could from her, man. And that really was a hard task for me to raise yourself mentally when you're already in the deepest, darkest dungeon of all time. And I think that's where I started really creating myself. I had to really start creating a certain pattern, a certain process, a certain kind of indestructible toolbox to handle my life. I was looking for strength my entire life. I didn't have any. I was a really weak kid. Protecting my mom for so many years in that house, my dad made me very afraid. So in that, every man wants courage. Every man wants strength. At least this one does. And trying to be a pararescue, I finally passed the ASVAB test after taking it several times. And you know, when you cheat your whole life in high school and elementary school, I had about a 4th grade reading level. So I talk about that a lot in the book, and I had to learn so much school in 6 months. And that's when I really developed my work ethic. People think it's from running and everything. No, it's not from SEALs, it's not from running. It was from the countless hours teaching myself how to fucking read and write. You know, I had a tutor for 1 hour. 1 hour every single week. That's all we could afford. So for 6 months, I saw a tutor 1 hour a week. All the rest was on me. My mom was working 3 jobs. She was never home. I sat at this fucking table. I'm like, I have to get in the military. No, I wasn't like it was a fix it all. No, it was a starting point to start holding myself accountable. And how that came to be, man, my mom got a letter from school, and this is when I had to reveal myself and all my secrets. The secret came out, man, that I wasn't going to school, that I had flunked most of my classes. I had my report card in there for everybody to see. And she was like, what is this? And this was like, she didn't see any report cards in my life. And at this time, she was frustrated. Not with me. This is when I had to reveal myself. And she was like, you know what, man? You're going to flunk out. And that was the conversation. I'm like, hey, we got to do something. She said, you got to fail. She had her own demons, her own problems. And that's when I went into the bathroom. And I was like, my God, dude, like, this is a harsh reality. Your mom is like, you're done. And I'm like, you are on your own. So that was a very emotional moment for me. And I'm actually there right now in my head talking to you. I remember that moment like it was yesterday. I was a fat guy trying to be a Navy SEAL now, and my life had come to this crossroads where I'm like, man, you have to go right. And no one was going right. Everybody was going left. I'm like, you have to go right. And to know the pain and suffering I was about to endure by going right, the amount of accountability and failure I was going to witness and suffer by myself alone on this journey, it was daunting. So when I finally got to the ASVAB test, and I was taking it for my very last time to get into the SEAL teams or to even try out, they weren't supposed to tell me my score. And I went back out to my car after I took it. I was on some computer test, and I didn't know how to use computer. I was wigging out about that shit because the first time I took it was like some like notebook. You know, you open a Scantron sheet and you bubble it in with the number 2 pencil and shit. You turn it in. I saw a computer and I was like, oh fuck, what the shit? What is? Oh my God! I'm like, it's on a computer, so I wigged out there, and I had to get a 50 on mechanical comprehension. It represented an opportunity for a new life, but the thing about it is, I'm trying to be a Navy SEAL. At this time, I was still 200 and some odd pounds. I still had more weight to lose. So think about this. I put everything on David Goggins to be a Navy SEAL. It's like going to the crap table with your last $1,000. And you say, you know what? I'm going to put everything on this fucking, on black. and hopefully I win. If not, I'm broke. I put my whole life, a guy that was scared of the fucking water, a guy that could fucking taught himself how to read and write, on being one of the hardest motherfuckers on the planet. Think about that shit. A guy that came from nothing. I put my whole life, and I'm gonna go out here and put everything on David fucking Goggins to be a Navy SEAL. Not to go be a fucking, Boy Scout or some shit, a Navy SEAL. And I look at that, and I did all this shit just to get the opportunity to succeed. That's what people don't fucking understand, man. People see the end result. I remember that guy saying, my God, man, I can't believe what the fuck I've just done. I put everything, ruin relationships, ruin this, ruin that, put everything on the fact I have to become someone in this world, or I'm no good for anybody.
It's like they've got all sorts of reasons to think that. It's like life is hard. It's a crucifixion. That's right. And so it's no wonder they think that. It's like, okay, fine. First of all, we're going to take it seriously. Yeah, you're suffering and adrift, and you have your reasons. So you take those reasons seriously, and you say, despite that, there's more to you than you think. And you know that too, because you upbraid yourself for not manifesting it. Mm-hmm. And you say to people, well, I ask people, for example, well, who do you admire? Because that instinct for admiration is part of the instinct for imitation. It's like, who do you admire? You admire people who are completely irresponsible. You admire people who can't take care of themselves. They can't even take care of themselves. Here's the most admirable person. Completely useless to themselves, maybe even counterproductive. Just a bloody catastrophe for their family, and what would you call? A social danger. Like, no one admires that. No one admires that. It's like you start minimally. Can you take care of yourself? At least that'd be the first thing. And then is there enough to you so that maybe someone else could rely on you now and then? And maybe a number of people, maybe your family. You could be the glue that holds them together and mends them. And then maybe there could be more to you than that. Maybe you could be someone for your community, and God only knows how far you could go with that. Those are the people you admire. It's like, well, try that out. See what happens. And start locally. Carl Jung said, this is one of my favorite Carl Jung quotes. He said, modern man does not see God because he will not look low enough. I really like that. And so, I've been telling the people that I talk to the same thing. It's like, you have a certain amount of potential within your grasp. You may find what you have contemptible because you're not in a position of power. This modicum of possibility that's been granted to you is beneath you. And so you do nothing with it. And so you get nothing from it. You take that seriously. You do the small things you can, the humble things that you can to put yourself together in those tiny, embarrassing ways that are real. And if you do that enough, you'll fortify yourself. It's an unbelievably positive thing to see, and it's a real thing. It's like it's so interesting to watch the fact that all people have to do is put some of these things into practice, and all of a sudden that little modicum of potential that they had, because they got humble enough to deal with it properly, starts to expand and expand. And like, I believe, and I do believe this, and I think this is part of the Christian message fundamentally, is that there's actually no limit to that expansion. Because in some sense, like, we are this weird combination of finite and infinite. Like, we're related to the infinite in some manner, obviously, because the infinite exists, and here we are, and so we're related to it in some manner, and I don't know what manner that is, but I don't know what the limits are. It's like if you were the best person you could be, truly, if you decided to live by truth and to aim at the good, and you really did that, you put your whole heart and soul into it, that's what you were staking your life on, because you're staking your life on something. Who the hell could you be? And no one knows, You know perfectly well you could be far more than you are. And you don't know what the upper limit of that is. And we certainly don't know what the upper limit would be if there were lots of people doing that. God only knows what problems we could solve. There's lots of suffering and misery in the world. Plenty. And it's no wonder that people get bitter. But God, as you pointed out before, You know, we've got no shortage of ingenuity and possibility. And if we were serious about making things less wretched than they are, who knows what miracles we could pull off.